Thank you for joining us on the Free Time Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Robert Gaines, and today's guest is Sama. Sama holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in bioengineering and also pursued a PhD in neuroscience and computer vision. Sama's day job is as a data scientist at an engineering company, but the reason why she joins us today is because of her fascinating YouTube channel called The Road to Reality, where she takes a scientific and mystical approach to looking at the latest information that we know about our understanding of the nature of reality and how we perceive it. Without further ado, here's Sama. I always do some prep work before any of the podcast episodes. This was the first one I actually did some homework before I started because, I'm not from the STEM background. I'm not from, I don't have a scientific background, and normally I talk to entrepreneurs. So the one book that I could get my hands on really quick that would kind of get me up to speed just to make sure that I would, make the conversation a little bit better was actually read Erwin Schrödinger's What is Life? And because I think some of the concepts that you discuss on your channel are somewhat rooted in a little bit of his work, so that I could ask a little bit better quality questions.
Yeah. So the videos that I've made are based on my work view by Erwin Schrödinger. Mm-hmm. But I had a couple of years ago, I had started What is Life. But I never finished it. It was very complicated. I normally listen to Audible, the audiobooks. So I found it really hard to focus on. It was hard, yeah. But this one, my worldview was much easier. I read the PDF.
Can you start us off with some of the research that you did academically to attain your degrees, and then that'll kind of get us started on some of the subject matter.
Okay. During my master's, I did research on abdominal aortic aneurysm. So that's a bulge in the abdominal aorta. And so I wanted to build a technique or like a tool so that we can identify the at-risk patients better than just the diameter. Because right now, surgeons, just based on the diameter, anything like above 30 centimeter, they do operation. And so operation has risk. So I worked on to understand the fluid properties and the pattern inside of it, and then detect the risk of rupture. And in that, I used algorithms such as genetic algorithm, like the same algorithm that evolution by natural selection uses to evolve life. And then during my PhD, I worked on stroke patients to basically detect if they're going to have cognitive impairment later on in life, or dementia. So there are different types of dementia. So I worked toward that, and I combined methods from deep learning. So one of the trendy techniques these days for artificial intelligence, and so I use like some of those techniques to do detect parts of the brain from the MRI images and calculate their atrophy, specifically the regions that are responsible for memory consolidation, and use those together with some data science techniques to detect the risk. And I published, during that time, I published 2 articles. And during my master, I did 1. But I never finished my PhD. Actually, I was about to finish, but then we moved from Canada. I and my husband moved from Canada to US, and I started a job in solar turbine at a gas turbine company. And I'm data scientist right now, and working on detecting issues and faults in the turbines using data science methods. And yeah, I do a lot of programming, computer programming and coding. And scientific methods like data analysis, and they kind of teach me to look at life questions also from the same lens. But I don't know if it's sufficient, because I personally like to listen to everybody, and I think everybody have their own tool to look at things. It's not just through the lens of codes or mathematics, I guess. Yeah.
And I would assume that the title of your YouTube channel, Road to Reality, is rooted in Roger Penrose's book of the same name.
So that's one of the books that I really love to read to the end, but it's a really thick book. I haven't finished it really, but I guess that's what inspired me.
When did you first start getting interested in the nature of consciousness and reality? When did that start?
I think I was so the very first book in philosophy it was Socrates book, and I was encountered with during my bachelor studies. But before that, I grew up in a religious family, but I always would see paradoxes, and I will call myself non-religious, and when you grow up in a religious family, you get to be exposed to a lot of questions that eventually the answer is God, and so you're like, I need to go to the bottom of this. So I think, I think since childhood, since like just talking about religious stuff at home and those kind of things, it kind of made me interested in these topics about like God, how does things work, and then when I encountered that book and during my bachelor, I really loved it. The book by Socrates. I'm not sure it was his book, but it was a book that was talking about his ideas. So it wasn't an easy book, but I found it really interesting. He was talking about like morality is something that only comes from genuine knowledge. And I was like, why? Like, yeah, I was growing up in a religious family. Always we were talking about you have to be moral and you have to be, but why? And I feel like I understand why now. He was telling that for a reason, and that reason is deeply rooted in the physics of the world. So I can answer that question, I think, based on just physics. This channel, I wanted to bring on the video, whatever was in my mind or whatever I was listening to, the audiobooks that I listen every day that I go to work, and get people's comments about it. And I'm really interested to know what people think, that they might be like quite far away from me where I'm located. They might live in like different country, and I want to know what they think. Because when they put comments, some of them are really interesting. Like, I'm like, wow. Some people have really unique ideas, and that never crossed my mind. So it's like a great opportunity to interact with people too.
Fantastic. And you put a lot of effort into those episodes, and especially some of the, I assume it's AI generated images, and some of it's just amazing landscapes of I guess sometimes visual interpretations of what you're saying. And it's like, wow, so it's great to listen to. And then sometimes you'll have an image pop up that's like, wow, it's how could those large language model AIs, are really creating some incredible things that I would never think to create. And some of it goes along very nicely with your content. I do have some information here that I wanted to read to you. I just thought this was just very relevant to your channel. This is from the preface of I always say Edwin Schrodinger's 1944 essay called "What is Life?" And of course, our audience are mostly entrepreneurs, so I'll just quickly say that he's the father of quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
But he said, we have inherited from our ancestors a keen longing for unified, all-embracing knowledge. We feel clearly that we are only now beginning to acquire reliable material for welding together the sum total of all that is known into a whole. On the other hand, it has become next to impossible for a single mind to command more than one specialized portion of it. I can see no other escape from this dilemma, lest the true aim be lost forever. That some of us should venture to embark on a synthesis of facts and theories, albeit with a secondhand and incomplete knowledge of some of them, and at the risk of making fools of ourselves. And I think your channel tries to do that, right? It's that synthesis of those things that you mentioned, from the philosophy into the hard sciences.
Yeah, and I always think about that story of the elephant in the dark room. So today, science is trying to find an objective reality or an answer for everything, a theory of everything. And then, well, that's a great tool. But then the situation is like that elephant in the dark room. So people have their own reality, their subjective experience, and they're fighting over what they perceive and thinking that that's the reality. And they don't know that the other person is sitting on the other. It's on the same reality, but it's on the other side of the elephant. So that's I guess that was the idea behind the channel, to really listen to everyone describing a piece of reality that it's there. It's just a piece of it. And we need tools to put these pieces together, like pieces of the puzzle, and see what is the actual picture, or what is the objective reality. So I think, what we hear from science, what we hear from philosophers, from every theory that we hear, I feel like it has some explanation for some part of reality. So, seriously, like anything that I hear, it explains something. But it doesn't explain everything. It explains something. So I'm like, yeah, pieces of reality is that, and the other piece is this. So when you look at my channel, you would see that's the Frankenstein. That's like stitched all the pieces, trying to come up with something that makes sense from the views of everybody.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say, have you noticed what is causing some videos to be more popular than others? I've talked to a couple of people that have channels, and they're always trying to figure out why does certain things get a really big audience. Like some of your videos have hundreds and hundreds of views, and the other ones might be in the thousands. What's the seems to be the difference between the two? Is there a rhyme or reason to that?
So the biggest leap happened when I posted this video about holonomic theory of consciousness, and I was interested in it. When I read it, I loved it. I felt like it talks to it's true. Like yeah, that's that. I feel like that's how brain works. And then I wrote it in a minute, and then for the thumbnail, I was like, what should I put that they would get curious to look at this? Because I really wanted people to see this theory. I felt like it's the lost theory. It was a theory coming from David Bohl and Tyler Hardeshardine and Carl Pribram, the neuroscientist. So So I said, okay, when I look at the videos, I see sometimes when there are pictures of like brain, or I get more interested. And so I was like, well, this is about the brain. And if I look at this thumbnail, I'm going to click on it. I told myself. And then I told my husband, I'm betting this video is going to go over 12K. And it went to 18K. So
Wow.
I think I try to make the thumbnail intriguing. And then inside the content, well, I really enjoyed myself to be honest. So I thought everybody else would, and that happened. So I think people get intrigued by the thumbnail a lot, but also when they would leave the video if they don't find the content. It has to have some twist or some difference, because there are lots of content, and it shouldn't be mediocre, I guess, so that they continue, and because they continue watching to the end, and sometimes they just double watch it, so YouTube algorithm would recognize it being useful, so like comments and likes, and so I would say like the thumbnail and the title on it, like I put this is not what I did. Oh, I did this is not a computer, it's a hologram. Like this was this brain picture in my hand, and so I think that was like something to really click on. If it was me, I would click on it. So, well, I would say number one is the thumbnail, and then the content itself. Because if they are looking for something about philosophy, they're looking for real content. If they are like looking for something entertainment, they could click on anything. But if they want to listen to philosophy, they have to be careful. They have to continue on something that worth listening. So I would say that. And then I think both videos were published on Thursday. So I think toward the end of the week, maybe that's also a positive kind of, that people get to relax more toward the weekend and watch videos.
That's what AI has been telling me. They say between Tuesday and Thursday, and it's funny how much AI knows now about human watching patterns and the best time to drop a video. And these by design, these episodes drop on Tuesday night because it's in that Tuesday to Thursday sweet spot. And of course, if everybody starts doing it, then it dilutes the effect,
Yeah.
and eventually that's probably going to happen. And then Wednesday will be the hot night. But it's just funny how I see so many different things related. So many years ago, I had an art gallery, and you were talking about the thumbnails, and almost any marketing person, any pro, and I don't consider myself one, but any pro at YouTube that has garnered a very large audience, they always talk about the importance of the thumbnail. I mean, it's in every video about how to be big on YouTube. And some big creators have said, I spend as much time on the thumbnail as I do the content, which is a little scary to me because I'm not interested in spending 6 hours.
But then they won't continue watching it. If it's just the thumbnail intriguing, they're gonna just go and then leave it.
That's
so
right.
I mean that's how I am. Like if I just click on it and I see 30 seconds, it's just it's not going to the point, I would leave it. So
you made a good point about too, making something that you would click on, that you would be interested in. And in marketing, I've often heard people say, build a niche that's so small, like a door, that only you would walk through. And again, going back to what we said before, to find your tribe, the people that, because you want to continue to talk about what you're interested in. The curse of going viral is, especially as it something that's not in your wheelhouse or something that you don't enjoy talking about, but you happen to do one show on it, and that's the thing that explodes. I know musicians that have done that are, let's say, hard rockers, and they just do one love song, and the love song is the thing that goes popular, and then they have to transition themselves. Well, do we stay a hard rock band? Do we stay true to what we are? Or do we just start writing love songs to stay in the charts and stay popular? So, and we discussed that before, do you play to the algorithm, or do you just continue to do what you love? And I think that, like you said, with people just
Much
being
as I
attracted to them?
can,
Go
but
ahead.
the rest, I mean, it it needs a lot of time and attention, and I really think if you put your effort and attention and focus, it should become successful. Like in my opinion, but I have another job, and it's just it's a lot of time. To and just the stuff that people say consistently uploading or things such as they said this is like twice a week, but for me sometimes it's 4 weeks that I haven't uploaded anything, and that affects because if in the past somebody clicked on some of my videos, now I've lost it. After 4 weeks, YouTube is not going to show this to people who once clicked on your video. But then, these are things that I cannot control because I have like life, I have job, and then I really don't want to post stuff that are already there, or I don't want to like if I just copy what Bernardo Kastrup says and bring it in a video, what's the point? I want to bring on like my opinion. I want to bring like I want to make it a combo with another philosopher's point sometimes, or if it's not there, I want to tell it in a different way, and those needs time. So I'm trying to post consistently, but sometimes it's just not possible. So I feel like any video that I like myself, people also like it because it's it just people like contents that are not really repeated a lot of time, are new, and sometimes like they're lost theories, because the theories are kind of like YouTube channels and videos too. Sometimes like in scientific papers, the different methods or the population, so and some of them get more citation, and when they get more citation they come up, and so the more and more people cite, and that theory comes up. So
Right,
so
right.
similar.
And you're basically describing SEO, search engine optimization. If a site has more links to it from other sites, that connectivity, it pushes it up. And it's funny how all of these things are connected to each other. Have you seen anything surprising in your YouTube data? And now, of course, you can get really granular with the data from the YouTube studio. Are you seeing anything unusual about where your viewers, what country they're from, or are you seeing any patterns emerge in that audience?
I think well, that's something that I wonder. Why not many women are interested in philosophy? Because most of the viewers are males, and they are between 20 to 55 years old, and the majority are between 40 to 55 years old. So those kind of things, YouTube brings the analytics, and then mostly are from US, and then of course Canada and United Kingdom, India, so English language countries.
Right.
And something that is kind of like I'm not happy about it is the engagement. It's usually 2.3 minutes. So even the average engagement duration is like 2.3 minutes. And I'm trying to make the videos short so you could watch the whole thing. It's just 2.5 minutes. So it's something that I really want to work on it to engage them to the end of the video. If I don't want them to watch to the end, why would I make like a 10-minute video? I want to like try to compress the stuff to smaller episodes, so they could remain engaged. But then that would require more work because you have to create one, title, description, and thumbnail, and so on. But the fact is that I love this. I love to work on my channel because it's been my passion going through these ideas and stuff, and it just makes me to kind of make sense of things in my life. So I'm going to continue it. So whether it grows or not, I'm going to continue it because that's satisfying to me.
And you try to post at least once a week. Is that your typical schedule, to try to at least get something up once a week?
Yeah. I've had some weeks that like 2 weeks, like 3 weeks. One time I was sick, so I couldn't post any. And but yeah, in general, I'm trying. But my channel is only 4 months old.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and it's funny. I didn't plan to mention this, but you led into it perfectly. So what I was looking on YouTube for is I was intentionally filtering, because I was booking guests, I was talking to people and trying to filter, because I already knew that my audience in general were going to be entrepreneurs and business owners, because that's the language I speak. So that's the tribe that I'm reaching out to. But I also wanted to have people that were doing what they wanted to do, so whether it was monetized or not. And I wanted some variety in that. And of course, too, we don't get in a lot of shows that are business oriented, you don't get a lot of people from the STEM field. And I'm also fascinated in that. So I want to make sure that that is part of the conversation too. But how I found your channel is I was intentionally looking for relatively new channels. And I think one of your thumbnails had some crazy, wild looking AI created. And I was like, whoa, what is that? And I played it. And at first, because again, I'm not well trained scientifically, I thought, is this pseudoscience? Like it just didn't, because I tend to reject that stuff pretty fast. If somebody says, if your arm has a tumor, I'm going to wave my hand and through energy, as soon as somebody starts, I just tune out, because I worked in the medical field and I haven't seen that happen. I think there are other ways to heal people, but again, I'm very traditional and practical. So at first, when I was listening to you, I thought, this sounds like crystals and stuff like that, which is okay. But the more I listened, I was like, no, that's the name of a scientist, and so I had to watch for a while to kind of figure out what the kind of overarching theme was. I knew you were talking about consciousness, but I couldn't tell if it was rooted in science or not. And but it was because of my lack of scientific education, not because what you're saying was pseudoscience. It's just I was like, I had to look some stuff up, and I was like, no, she knows what she's talking about, and it's actually really fascinating. So it opened some doors for me. What are some of the biggest comments that you get most frequently? Or is there a consistent pattern there?
Yeah, some, well, I think some people who have similar opinion, they would always give me positive comments, such as, yeah, for sure. For example, for sure, brain is a hologram, and like, yeah, we live in a simulation, and things such as the I don't have them at the top of my mind, but most of it is like positive. And sometimes I get negative comments too. Some people who would say, "Yeah, if you live in a hallucinatory world, then go kick a rock and see how it feels like." And and I try to respond to everyone, but sometimes they're rude stuff.
I can
I would
imagine.
give them a respond. And it's actually very interesting because you get to see how different is this person's brain from you, and you're like, yeah, he is part of the reality too. He is, depending on where he sits, the laws of nature for him for that particular point is like specified for him. We have the theory of everything. In that particular point, just like you have this sinusoidal function. Are you in the valleys? Are you in the hills? And depending on that, the numbers are different. So what they see is just a reflective of how they've been living or what they've been experiencing, and that's just that's been given to them by mostly chance, because the evolution, it's a blind algorithm that has been been generating these brains. We are the extension of our parents, and they are the extension of their parents, and depending on what is your brain's, I guess, structure and function, then life would show itself accordingly. So we're kind of like trapped in our brain, and depending on how is it wired, we're going to behave. So yeah, I don't have at the top of my mind a specific comment, but yeah, I wished I would write them down.
Are you getting more, is it more people that from a STEM background? Do you get many people with scientific training or not?
I've had people from like physics background, some from AI, and I've got people who have had like music background,
Oh, that's interesting.
art. Yeah, but I don't know like most of them, what is their background mostly, but I've had some from like AI, physics, or like some STEM. Some of them that are having medical background, they're quite opposing me because they're like, yeah, you haven't worked in the hospital to know. And so I guess, and sometimes they would suggest me to do not speculate this much. You have to like try to like, just live life healthy. And I'm like, well, I'm doing. This is kind of hobby for me. so they would think like I've been sitting here from the morning to night just generating videos and speculating about consciousness to post it on YouTube, and I'm like not eating, not sleeping, not like, well, this is my hobby. This is like my it's something that I've always been asking myself, and I'm otherwise I'm like living my life just like everybody else. It's not, if I'm posting something, if like, I don't know, maybe that's because not many women talk about philosophy, and they find it strange. Otherwise, I'm like, why would you think I'm not? I'm like all the time speculating about these things. Well, yeah, I am, but it doesn't mean that I'm not living a regular life.
Now that you
Obviously.
point that out, I haven't seen many female philosophers on YouTube, come to think of it. I don't know if I can name one.
I kind of think it's the manly thing. But then there was a person who suggested me, maybe it's time for you to become mother. And
oh, wow.
I was not related. I was like, I don't quite understand why would he come to this conclusion. And he was like, maybe later in life you should pursue intellect. But now that you're young, your goal should be to become mother. And
oh boy,
that surprised me. I mean, all sort of them, but I'm not bothered by these comments.
So you created a time machine, and you got a comment from 1953 coming through your YouTube channel. That's amazing. So you're a time traveler to consciousness and time travel. Your channel might be headed for a big explosion in attention, because actually, again, during the research for this, I went across Sabine Hassenfelder's channel, which I've been on hers a few times before, because she's, her stuff is amazing. But just 3 days ago, and I don't know, hopefully I'm the first to tell you, but maybe you know already. But 3 days ago, she was, and she's a theoretical physicist for our audience. She actually cited a study that supported the microtubules that kind of supports the quantum effects in the brain by Roger Penrose, which was one of the more disputed things that he put forth. I think he partnered with another gentleman on that concept, and people from his own field, even though Penrose is again, world-class intellectual, he got a lot of flack for that. But now there's a study out that seems to support that. And, I've watched some explanations about it. I had no idea that quantum theory and thought could have any connection between the two. And again, your channel talks about that stuff, but again, I had no idea. So there is
That's very interesting. Yeah, I came across that idea a few years ago by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff. That was
the gentleman, yes.
The proposal that in microtubules, consciousness happens in microtubules because when we look at that, so talking about the double slit experiment, when the electrons pass through the slits and it gets observed. So Roger Penrose says that when we look at the results, when we measure them, basically, eventually we look at the results. So when we measure them, that what happens is not that consciousness collapses the wave function. It's that when wave function collapses, consciousness happens, and that happens in the microtubules. Because Stuart Hameroff, he is an anesthesiologist, and he is like day-to-day work is to just knock down people and make them unconscious. But of course, they use drugs, and they don't know exact mechanism. So that like the regions where I think suspicious for this effect to happen. But then I don't exactly know. I've gone through some articles by them, but I can't like exactly understand how that can happen there. And I couldn't really wrap my head around this idea, because he was saying it's not that consciousness collapses the wave function. It's that when wave function collapses, we become conscious. I mean, I don't understand. It's like when we have all of these possibilities, we're already in all of those possibilities, and we're unconscious. But once we boil down to a single case, when we become conscious, oh, we're here. So something like that.
That's yes,
but,
and it's and
but
how exciting!
Is a great name. I mean, I would listen to anything that he tells. I would listen to. I'm not saying like I would subscribe to, but I would want to listen to any theories that he has. He's like, I mean, mind blowing.
How can people find your channel?
Channel handle is youtube.com/road to reality, but I will write to you the exact handle.
Yeah, no problem. I'll have the editor. He'll put it up here, and I'll also put it in the description as well. I really appreciate your time. I think it's fantastic. I continue to look out for your channel and all these new discoveries that we're making. I'm sure are going to make their way into your material as these research papers come out, and we learn a little bit more about what is this all about? What are we seeing in front of us? So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Free Time Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Robert Gaines, and we appreciate you stopping in and checking out the channel. If you would, please click like, subscribe, hit the notification button, leave a comment, share the video with someone. We've got some fantastic episodes coming up. Also, too, for today's guest, check out the description to find out more about them, and also look at the links that we've posted below that for ways to get connected with us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.